how do you actually get yourself into the market? So a lot of people feel like I've got to have this huge down payment. I'm going to have hundreds of thousands of dollars to get into the market. The price of my home is 10 times the amount of my salary. Now, what you can actually do in some cases, yes, you can get yourself into the market if you have $5, $10, $15, $20,000. It also means you're buying a property that's around $150,000 to maybe $220,000. But there are still some of those properties out there. Case in point, we have one in Agassiz, just listed it. We are listed at $209,000. Somebody has 5 or 10% down. You can get yourself into the market, which is fantastic. If you have $5, $10, $15,000, $20,000, 5% to 10%, you can actually get yourself into the market. And what the good part of that is, now there's a couple of things. You can be spending more on rent than you're spending on your mortgage payment, so go for the mortgage payment. But the biggest thing is that you're actually building equity and you're getting time on your side. So you're using that time to build equity and profit within the market. Now, even if you don't end up living in it and you're paying capital gains tax, you are still going to be way more ahead than if you hadn't purchased that property. Many times we all feel like we want to start out with our dream property, but you start small. You start at the bottom. You start where you can get your foot in the door. It's much like when you start your job, your career. You're starting where you can get your foot in the door to build that experience, to work your way up. It's the same as the property market. You want to get your foot in the door somewhere, buy whatever you can afford. Now, you might have a case where you live and work in, let's just say, Vancouver, and something comes up in Chilliwack or Agassiz. Now, that price point is affordable for you. It gets you in the door. But in terms of lifestyle, maybe you're needing to drive 5 days a week into Vancouver. That's not always so great. So what you can do, still buy that property, rent it out. You have your money working for you behind the scenes. You still have the lifestyle that you need to support it, being close to where you work, where your life is, where your social life is, where your family is. But you're making money and you're kind of making this nice, almost passive income because you've bought an asset. You haven't bought a liability, you have bought an asset. And in many cases, you can get a much better return on your real estate than you can in maybe the money market or with GICs or other types of investments. And it is always good to diversify. But for most people, where they make the majority of their wealth and their earnings and their profit and a big piece of their retirement is in the real estate market. So while you may not think you can get in the market if you only have 5% or maybe $10,000 or $15,000, you actually can. And that means you're going to buy a property that's maybe around $200,000. So that's going to be a condo. With the way the government has gone provincially, there are really no more restrictions about rentals. So you can rent pretty much anything that you purchase. Now, also just double check that, because with lease land, there can be some restrictions on that. But generally speaking, anything that's stratified, that is on freehold property, you can rent without, the bylaws do no longer supersede BC provincial regulation for rentals. So you can get yourself in the door, get that investment property, find yourself a great tenant. The other thing I would also recommend when you do find a tenant is to go through the search yourself. I know it is an absolute pain, but you can weed out your potential renters and go with your gut. Make your decision as to who you're going to rent to based on your gut, not your brain, on your gut. And also, is this someone I am feeling comfortable with, knowing that they're going to have to pay me monthly, they're going to pay on time, and they're not going to miss a rental payment? So, can you get into the market with a little bit of money? Yes, you can. Good credit, good finances, a little bit of money, keep doing the right things, and you can be a property owner.